That's how you start an ep. To me.
To me.
Season 1, Episode 7, penultimate episode. Alien. Earth. Let's get into it.
You watched it.
I watched it. We were together.
Yeah.
It was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Take us away. Where do we start off?
Where do we start off?
I believe we started off with a dead body under a bed.
I thought this was the funniest moment of the episode, maybe of the series.
Funniest and most crushing.
So it's not a dead body at this point.
No, it is.
This body
that's
is
fair.
This body is not. It is, to our knowledge, bringing the history of the Alien series with us. It is very much dead, but that's not at the point in time true. This is a guy with a face hugger over his face that slightly has brought into his bedroom through the lab and stored hilariously, as a child would, underneath the bed with I think it's an arm sticking out.
It's funny. What's funny about that scene is a couple of times they try and show you the intensity of Slightly making some mistakes, and so the neck tightens up, which is a common theme in alien movies, but that's supposed to you kind of tense up. But it's hard to tense up because so much comedy is happening at the same time. Because, like you said,
he's trying to give him juice.
Yeah, he's trying to.
He knows our guy is
the
dehydrated
alien by trying to get him juice.
That was very funny.
Oh,
and obviously played for laughs. The two actors are doing a very good comedic performance there.
I was reading up a little bit on this ep, and the author of the Esquire article of the summary was talking how little the actor who plays Shmi has been important to the story so far, but how much work that actor has done to portray all the body language of a kid and the most carefree of all the kids. He's clearly the one leaning the most into the kid piece of this role, and he is the most childlike of all of them. He's the one who's the most innocent, I think, of all of the characters. He's the one not trying to be an adult. Everyone else, him and Slightly, are probably the two that are the most trying not to be adults. Slightly's being drug into adult-like activities by Morrow. But what they bring up, and we can talk about later, is how what's difficult is you've seen Slightly get slowly pulled into this bad scenario and slowly pulled into the quote unquote Breaking Bad scenario, but Smee gets thrown into it full speed. He loses his innocence in one fell swoop of I've seen a dead body, or not necessarily a dead body at this point, but that's what it is to him, right? He just sees a body underneath the bed. And so he goes from as the author put, pacing around in his room with nothing to do, literally talking about how bored they are all the time, to I'm carrying a dead body with my friend now, which he knows is morally wrong. But the only balance there is that helping my friend is morally right.
Right. And as a child, you can be very easily talked into just about anything.
Which we see Morrow do to Slightly. The play on him is textbook. Textbook taking advantage of a child's innocence from it's trying not to turn it into a sexual predator scenario, but it's absolutely grooming. He grooms Slightly from the beginning in a I'm your friend, You can't tell anybody though that we're friends.
Yeah.
It's very purposefully gross. So that whole scene happens and slightly convinces Smee to help him carry this body to the beach, which is such a funny thing for Morrow to think they'll be able to pull off. It's interesting to me because we've discussed from the beginning where we think Kirsch is in all of this and whether he's double-crossed secret agent, has his own intentions.
Secret agent for sure.
Is actually
Tripling
just
down.
That's fair. Is just trying to play the like we kind of get this play at the end that makes you think he's just actually operating the way that Boy Cavalier would, where he's like, I'm one step ahead of everything. And it's interesting that we never really find out why he just lets
No,
this
he hints at both of our theories over the course of this episode.
But very early on, they let you know that he sees this. Like they don't like normally they hide that where they're like, oh, he's been watching all this the whole time. But very early on, they show you that he can hear everything that Morrow is saying to this kid, and he's purposefully letting this play out. And we get a delightful scene where the two kids are carrying this dead body. Kirsch walks into the room. They're both busted. And you can kind of see a sigh of relief because they're like, Dad's here.
I don't
There's
have to figure
finally
out
an
the rest.
adult to fix this problem. And like you can literally see him sigh when he goes, what are you doing? And he like spews it all out, how he's been talking to Morrow and this has all been happening. And Kirsch goes, I know that. And you're like, and he's literally just like, oh, thank God Dad knew this was happening all along. Everything's going to be okay. And then he just goes,
instead, he just redirects him to the right
why are you
elevator?
going that way? This is the easiest way out, which is such a fun turn for a couple reasons because, one, that's the whole moment where you're like, oh, we're going to find out which side he's on. And they kind of make you think that, but at the same time, they twist it again later on in the episode. But at this point, I leaned over you and I was like, well, I guess we're kind of leaning towards you. He's trying to get this alien out on the beach. But he also doesn't really lead on to that. He's like, he's not like, I know you're, he's very intentionally does not even give these kids any information, which is very, his character is becoming one of the more interesting characters of the story. Like, obviously, Octopus Guy is the one I'm most intrigued by, but I think after that, I think Kirsch is the character who we know the littlest about.
I think it's been that way for a while, and I would agree with you. That's the biggest question coming into the finale is where is he going to throw his allegiance to?
Yeah,
and I assume he will in this episode. I'm assuming they're not going to hang that Chad over us for the break between season 1 and season 2.
There is, I assume we will understand his intentions much more. Is it possible that Kirsch is just a copy of Boy Cavalier, but like a bad one? Because he talks about how Kirsch is smart, but in just a like data way. Like, is it possibly he's just an early version of what Boy Cavalier's been trying to do?
I like that idea. I don't.
I also don't think it is, but I just like it.
I like that theory.
We get a little bit of an interestingness where Boy Cavalier comes across the lab that's gone absolutely haywire. This is after Kirsch lets them out with the facehugger? Maybe before.
So this is him talking to the eyeball?
Yeah, Kirsch is in there, and he doesn't let him in yet. Boy Cavalier's obviously staying clear because we know that there's a facehugger kind of on the loose. We know that the two metal-eating bugs are on the loose. It is the bugs, he kind of goes into what their whole thing is. They have a way to externally process metal because there isn't a lot of like biological stuff on the planet they're from, and so they literally basically spit out their stomach acid, digest the metal, and then eat it afterwards. which actually doesn't check out to me because they never really eat the kid that
Doesn't seem like they slurp up that. They don't get the straw out and slurp up that goo.
But maybe they weren't actually hungry. They were just being aggressive towards this dude. I thought it was interesting how quickly they caught on to the fact that the octopus caused it. Kirsch immediately was like, check this out. This is very purposeful. That was a cool scene. The summary I kind of read made them sound like Boy Cavalier didn't really care about the $2 billion kid, Isaac. I don't know. I feel like he seemed kind of upset about it.
I think he was kind of upset about it, but I mean, remember, this is a guy who really just wants a friend to talk to on what he thinks is his very unique level.
Yeah.
And so for him to now get what he feels like is that opportunity with the eyeball.
Yes. So
it's so funny because he has a whole lot of intelligent conversations with a bunch of people.
Yes.
Which does not pass his standard of an intellectually curious conversation. But he asked this eyeball, what's the value of pie?
Yeah.
And the goat gives it to him, and he goes absolutely apeshit.
And then the goat shits, which is so funny.
It was hilarious, and it really shows the shallowness of Boy Cavalier's endeavor here. Yeah, he sat about Isaac for like a minute. Remember how excited he was about Wendy for like a minute, but he's throwing all of this aside because this goat can stomp in a particular
during
cadence.
that, though, they mention, they're like, well, they don't really matter. And then they go, well, except for Wendy. No. What did it say? He's like, I don't really care about the kids. And then it's except for Wendy is kind of the line. I forget what the specific line is, but essentially he says, Wendy is clearly more special, which I think is, I was thinking about this earlier when I was talking about, or when I was commenting to you how hard it was for these two superhuman kids to carry this quite small body down the beach.
We need to get to that, yes.
But what is interesting is how capable Wendy is. Did they just skip all of that training with the other kids? Or did they not? Like, they don't make it clear whether she learned all these things, because we see the like cut scene of her jumping, from a cliff and like running really fast. And she mentions, like, she talks to the kids about this stuff. And it's clear that they have some school and some training and stuff like that. But none of them exhibit any of this except for maybe, what's the other one? What's Wendy's nemesis? Not Nibs. Curly. Possibly Curly.
So it's confusing, and I think I spent a little too much time during the episode trying to figure this out, because Slightly can drag the body to his bedroom.
Yep, through a air tunnel.
So he's obviously got some level of accelerated strength. I mean, my child could not do that with my body, for example. So he does have the super strength there. Maybe they're not making the complete use to it, but there's so much dumb kid tomfoolery. Like, they make a raft for some reason.
Like, they're clearly struggling with him when they carry him, which is the part that kind of bugs me. Is like, it should be like they just like. I want to see more. Like, I want to see more of Isaac accidentally breaking the door because it's stuck and he pulls too hard. Like, that's what I want to see with them. Is like. Yeah, them accidentally throwing him up in the air because they were trying to lift him up. But it's that was the one part that, like, it very much checks out. It's very much like the Lord of the Rings. Why didn't they just put the ring in a bag and carry it on him if the effects don't like transfer through?
I put that on the writing. We spent way too much time thinking about how their behavior did not match up to their actions during this sequence.
I think it very much has to do with how Wendy does not play a child and they all play children. And it makes you, as the writer, you put yourself in the space of a kid and you're like, how are these dumb kids going to carry this body? And they, It doesn't bother me so much that I'm like not capable of writing off, but it does seem a little like it seems like a miss to me that someone could have said, "Hey, they should not have a problem carrying this child." Sure, you want your friend to help you,
and they can write it that way without
Yeah.
the physical limitations that they seem to have put on themselves. The other aspect of being outside that I bumped on, and we talked a little bit about the idea of where everybody is in the building last time, and then outside, where is everybody? Well, they are nowhere, and then suddenly they are all at once, and they used it a couple of times in the episode, which.
I mean, there is possibly an answer to that, which is that they were tipped off by Curly. And so that's why they were all there, not at the rest of the island. But there is a little bit of like, this is an abandoned secret skeleton crew base to we have 20 security guards that will show up at a moment's notice.
It was jarring.
But we could also write that off as Kirsch just playing his hand, right? Because he is, and I'll just cut to the chase. He does kind of lure them into a trap. He lures the other ones in and they show up, and then he marches all of his guys out the door like, here we are. So it's very possible that he's just playing this security game.
I'm willing to be wrong about it, but it just seemed like lazy writing and execution. It didn't seem like there was that many spaces for these people to pop out of in the first place. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like there was nobody. There's no roving scouts. There's no like near misses with like a team of 3 people that come in, and then all of a sudden there's like 25 that come up out of nowhere on this dock.
But I still think the dock one is the most believable to me. Because I think her name is like Serendipity or something like that.
The one that Hermit shot?
Hermit's friend, who I have not written down.
Anyways, one of the guards.
Yes, his friend from episode 1 warns him not to mess around, like not to give up on this plan. She says it again when she pops out of the boat. I don't know if Joe goes about his plan so poorly and everybody's on to his plan. So it doesn't surprise me that much that they had set up a trap at this boat for him. The one that's the most egregious to me is how long it took someone to figure out Isaac was dead. Yeah, that's the one that I think is the most egregious to me, is that no one is watching the footage of this lab.
Yes, and the idea that now there's the invading force coming in onto the island and they can just run around with impunity for a very long time. So there's either the island has full surveillance and you have an all-seeing eye and
right.
You can set these traps, or you don't. And they seem to want to have it both ways, depending on what would work best for the plot line at the time.
I think you're right. I think we could spend a lot of time theorizing about which one it is, and I don't think they'll answer that question because they're fine just letting it be whatever they want it to be. I do think there's a little bit of laziness there that could have been figured out. If they do explain it off that Kirsch has been like planning all this and has seen all this from the third eye, then I find that more believable. But I don't know if you're gonna take 15 minutes to explain that of the episode.
I'm willing.
They should have hinted to it before this, I think.
I'm willing to be wrong, but I bumped on it. The scenes there was too many things that didn't make sense with the scenes before for me.
So to the Lost Kids, we've got Wendy, aka Marcy, who is finally agreeing to leave now, mostly because of the betrayal of Dame. Dame Sylvia, Arthur's wife, who basically makes the heel turn and erases Nib's memories. So she's finally like on Joe's side. Is like, fine, we can leave. This is a bad place. We can go. But I'm taking my friends. And he doesn't want to, but he's like, all right, fine. You're right. I would stay for you. That quickly turns into, we'll just get Nibs and Curly. I thought that was so funny that like she literally is like, I'm not leaving anyone behind. And then all they do is go get Nibs. Now I know that Curly
just another
says
manifestation
no,
of what
but
I'm talking about.
yes, but that was that was the most lazy piece to me, where there was no like, they didn't even show them looking for the other kids and be like, oh, their rooms are empty. You know, they might be here. They might like, they just, well, they're off on their own adventure that they know about. So we've answered that question. And I thought that part kind of bugged me. Curly obviously is super happy where she's at, which I kind of see. I'm like, I don't, it's obviously not going to pay off for Curly well, but this is probably the best she's ever, like, she has had the most to gain from this transformation, going from her wheelchair existence to this. Mm-hmm. Granted, all of them are going to die at some point, but I don't know how much of you understand that as a child. I think it took me a while to really understand how kind of gross this experiment is for you to like require kids to do this thing. I don't know why. Like, it seemed kind of generous at first, that you're like, oh, we can save kids, you know, but it's all just a means to the long-term experiment, right?
Yes,
And they obviously don't.
Yeah.
And yes, I caught all of that early on, but it kind of hit me harder, I think, during this episode, that I was like, oh, that like these kids are not, they're not the experiment. They're the step to like what the real experiment is. They're just like an expendable puzzle piece, which is kind of gross about the whole thing. I do wonder if it's not just Boy Cavalier trying to find someone smart. He wants to also live forever. I mean, that's kind of what the race is. That's what they explained in the text at the beginning.
I think that's his goal, yeah.
We do get to go back to the comment he does. He says, do the backups work? So they clearly have backups of all these kids somewhere.
We talked about that last step. Yeah, we didn't want them to recreate Isaac after he died.
Which, right? I think it was very smart of them to bring it up, and I think it was smart of them to immediately write it off and go, yes, like, agreed. It's not in theory it's there, but it's not there. But it also makes it grosser that there's clearly like a consciousness copy of these kids somewhere. We see the graveyard of the kids later on, which makes like it real to them, because I don't think they realize, like, they didn't get the transporter paradox, the Star Trek paradox, that like, are you the thing that you're a copy of, or are you a rearrangement of the molecules? And this is kind of a clear like, oh, that's like me. That's, you know, but because they were disconnected from that beforehand, I don't think they ever like connected themselves to the idea of like that they're kind of dead in a way, like, or they've changed, period. I think they kind of like, they knew they were different, but didn't really understand like the concept behind it. Eventually, our kids, Shmi and Slightly, make it to the beach, or about to make it to the beach, and the facehugger retreats, and Arthur climbs a tree, or the facehugger makes him go up a tree. He kind of disappears for a second, and then he comes back, and they, again, just in like the most heart-crushing way, they're just looking for an adult. I love that he is like, oh, you guys are so bad at lying. He talks about kids who are like so poor at lying. He's like, you guys have all these abilities and this intelligence, but like, you can't, like, you have to learn, like, this is a learned trait. Lying isn't just something that inherently comes to you. Like, it's taught and learned, and you're not good at it. And we, of course, know how poorly this is going to go. And quickly, of course, he gets the nice chest burster, which I commented, I think it's a high honor to get your chest bursted in an alien property. I think that's kind of cool. That I'm trying to think of how many have had it done, and there's probably 4 or 5 at the most, and I think that's pretty freaking cool. Not including, of course, Spaceballs.
Sure.
Which every time I see that scene, that's immediately what I think of is Spaceballs, and then immediately going, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal." I don't want the soup. That's what it was, right? Because he orders the special. The soup is the special. Anyways, back to the real show we're talking about.
Anytime.
Anytime now. Arthur's dead. The alien runs off into the bush. Do they keep carrying the body? They do. They carry the body with a chest hole all the way to the rest of the beach, which is just such a like. They do and don't understand what they're doing. They're just trying, like they just want off. They just want out. They just want to complete this thing. That's when our Navy Marines, our Morrow and his amphibious crew pull up out of the water with all their guns. They're clearly going to try and pull an entire assault on the island, which I think is very short-sighted. In that they were like, let's wreak havoc on the place, and then we'll attack them. And it just seems like they maybe went in a little early.
Yeah, the movie that I thought about the most while watching this ep, it wasn't Alien or Aliens or any of the Alien movies or Alien Extended Universe. I was thinking a lot of Jurassic Park.
Sure.
You have the one...
the system breaks down.
The one system failure, Nedry... Spoilers for the 1994 Jurassic
96?
Park.
96, right?
Was it 96? Nedry shuts the fences down. In this case, they shut
93.
down... 93. So I was closer, so I win. They shut down the trackers to the kids. Now all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. As Xenomorphs as the Raptors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was and Boy Cavalier as the guy who thought so much about whether he could or couldn't, but didn't take the time to think about whether he should or shouldn't.
For how far ahead he's supposed to be, that's his whole thing. Like we get that one-on-one negotiation with Yutani Wayland as an example of like how much more intelligent and how many more chess steps ahead of everybody else he is. He does not seem to be know what's going on at all. And I think some of that is shown in his ADD, in that he gets hyper focused on things. And they show that when like he no longer even cares about Isaac. He's immediately focused on this when he finds that this goat makes this premeditated move to distract Isaac in a way to show you that, we don't know what the octopus eyeball's motives are, but it shows intelligence, and he gets super stoked about that. And it is funny how quickly he's like, I want to communicate with this thing. And like, I do wonder when the goat takes a shit, which was so funny to me.
Yeah. when the goat takes a shit. Yes, go on.
I know how it's supposed to play off as the goat being like, F you, I don't even want to talk to you. But in some way it makes me think that when we overinterpret the intelligence of things, like when we look at it, like when a dog gives us a face and we're like, oh, look, sometimes I think it knows what I'm thinking.
Yes.
You're like, that is you putting that on them. There's a word for that.
Personification?
No,
that's when
it's when you attach human characteristics to an animal. Look it up real fast while I'm talking. But there is a very specific word for it.
There's a new movie coming out. It's a horror movie called Good Boy, which is a movie shot entirely from a dog's perspective. And I was listening to an interview by the creator talk about how he uses this to the effect, because it is just a regular dog that he is talking. It's his dog that he's talking to, and he's editing it in such a way that we
anthropomorphism.
Anyways, that we ascribe those meanings to. So if he stares at something and he keeps that stare for a little bit, and there's nothing there, we interpret that to be, with the editing, that there's some sort of haunted presence there or something like that. So that type of...
But that's what I think is... I know that's not what this is, because he's stamping the numbers to pi, but I do think it's very funny that, like, this could very well be your interpretation, especially when you want this thing to be that intelligent. And so you're assigning all of these. It's bad science, I guess, is what I'm trying to say it is.
That's what I was talking about earlier, is that the idea of knowing pi, yes, that's a sign of intelligence, but not the sign of...
the super intelligence he's looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he definitely cannot concentrate on what he wants. Like, he has this entire science experiment that's going on that each kid is $2 billion or however much. And now he's immediately like, oh, but I've this ship that's crashed. Now I have this other creature that might be intelligent.
Well, and thematically, I think that is part of the point. It is part of a conversation around what we're seeing with our various tech lords there. I think you can draw a direct parallel between his childlike behavior at the top of this organization and the idea that he put literal children's consciousness in the bodies of grown-up adults. I think that's a big part of what Noah Hawley is trying to say.
Do you think that's a metaphor of him thinking he was an adult in a child's body? Like growing up?
I think the character might say that. I think the creator is saying that these people in power are just children.
That's fair.
So yes to what you said, but also yes to what I said.
We're big yesers around here. While this is happening, Joe and Wendy and Nibs try and make an escape. They make Curly promise not to say anything about their escape, which I think she clearly does. I don't think it's necessary, but I think there's a good chance that Curly's the reason that they had them ready to jump on them at the boat. I mean, but it's not necessary. I don't need that to be why.
We don't need forensics
Kirsch
to look into
them just Joe slinging his plan all over the place. There's many holes in why that they might be ready for them on the boat. And also Wendy being like the number one, other than the alien species on there, she's the number one asset of that entire facility. And probably more important than the aliens, I would say, in this case. And so they probably are somewhat keeping a close eye on her. So they're wandering around in the jungle. They come across some of Morrow's people, I believe, at first. And she warns them. She's like, hey, you guys, you should probably leave right now. And they're like, no, we're like taking you away. And then she does her little clicky thing. And the alien comes and murders them all and terrifies the crap out of Joe. And that's when Joe finally realizes that she let the alien out, which I thought he already had known. She runs back to do that. There's not a lot that goes on after that, other than eventually they get to the boat. They think they're going to make an escape. Joe's friend comes out. They're surrounded. They have a little bit of a face-off. Nibs growls a lot. Turns into a very like feral beast at this point. And I believe rips the jaw off of one of the guys, who of course is the sacrificial, I'm going to treat you like an asshole, and so he's the one we allow to have his jaw ripped off. But then she goes after Joe Hermit's friend and has her, basically cracks her skull, and Joe shoots her. What I saw come out of the gun was very much a non-lethal weapon.
Oh, you think she's still alive?
No, I think she's dead. But I think the gun was set on stun and capture, but I think it does not. It was probably set too high and did some damage to her. It very much looked like she was dead.
Yeah, that was my interpretation.
That's how I think what happened, but I don't think Joe's intention was to kill Nibs, and I don't think the gun was set. They make because they make a very purposeful choice to show this like electrical beam that comes out of the gun, not like bullets and that rips off half her face or your typical laser. It's very much like a lightning bolt that comes out that made me think it was like some sort of non-lethal type. That everyone had their gun set to stun because we're just here to capture the person.
You might be right. I did not pick up on that or read it that way. I read it
But
as
when
more
she
of an
hit the boat,
impulsive...
it was like, oh, she dead.
Yeah.
And that, of course, upsets Wendy. She yells, "What did you do?" several times. She'd already half called the alien, but then kind of held the alien off. The alien did not go crazy on the dock yet, right? I think we kind of left it off where she just turns and yells, "What did you do?" for the second time.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, kind of where the penalty ends off.
We haven't seen the humans team up with the xenomorph in the alien proper. I believe there's some team ups in some of the supplemental Alien v Predator.
Also,
but
not a human.
In all the movies, the xenomorph is the antagonist.
Yep.
And now here, I think, can we agree that Wendy is our primary protagonist?
Wendy is our protagonist for sure.
So now the xenomorph.
The xenomorph is not the antagonist. But I think that's kind of common. Like, in Alien, yes, the antagonist, the impending danger is always the alien. And it's much more smudged in the other movies. But the evil is not the alien. The alien is amoral. So while it's the threat, it's the terror, it's what we're afraid of, it's always the evil behind it is always the like corporate greed of the Wayland Corporation.
Yeah, and this is the most explicit version of that.
This is the most where this is the most where they get like there's so much going on outside of the alien because it's especially because it's a TV show, not a movie, right? So you've got more time to cover everything around it, that you were digging more into the corporations making these bad calls. But I think that's very much kind of the point to the movies. Well, is several times, and especially like in what might be one of the worst ones is Alien 3. That's very much what they like try and dig into, is that like even at the end when Bishop, this cyborg that she's kind of in the past had been in love with, the character that not the clone version of him that shows up at the end of Alien 3, but it's all a trick and nothing and nobody matters. And the only reason that they were put into whatever scenario that they were them versus the alien or bad situation versus the alien was because of like corporate greed and what's the word I'm looking for?
Butts.
Lots of butt stuff. No.
But I think that is very much expressed in the movie. Once the Xenomorph and Wendy team up, now who are we left with as the primary antagonist, except for Boy Cavalier by a country mile?
Boy Cavalier is by far the baddie, but we also have Morrow. We also have like Wayland Yutani, who is they don't have good intentions. Morrow may have more justifiable intentions, but like Wayland Yutani is still the big bad in all of Alien. So there's something going on with that. We still have Kirsch, who we don't know where they lie on all of it.
He's a wild card, and Eyeball is a wild card.
Eyeball is definitely a wild card. It would be classic Alien, because we've got two aliens out there. We've got good Alien, which is very latest Jurassic Park trilogy.
The one who's bonded, Blue.
Yeah.
You're talking Blue. The
Basically.
one who was bonded
Yeah.
with Wendy.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Blue that's the perfect example. We've got Blue Alien, and we've got this other new alien that has no attachment. Now that doesn't mean that maybe Wendy can't communicate with it.
Yeah, but you really want to see a xenomorph on xenomorph
I think
battle,
we're
right?
definitely getting a xenomorph.
That sounds fun. I would love to see that.
I think that's the most. I think it would be cheap if we didn't. It's cheap that we do. It's predictable, but it's just as predictable as Eyeball and Engineer, and he turns around. Like it's it's coming. It's gonna happen, but it's still a good moment, and you can't not do it just because it's what's predictable.
Yeah, let me see it.
Do both aliens die by the end?
I was gonna say predictions for this ep.
I think
Xenomorph battle.
definitely Xenomorph battle.
Both of them dying would make sense. Because again, we have no knowledge from Sigourney Weaver's perspective, of aliens
On Earth.
On Earth, like we're talking about here. So I say yes, xenomorph on xenomorph battle. They do both die. Hirsch is a double agent for Wayland. Till I die. What else?
Well, we're definitely going to see Morrow again. Are we going to see a Morrow versus Kirsch battle? Are we going to find out that Kirsch and Morrow are on the same side? I think Boy Cavalier dies, right?
Boy Cavalier dies. Morrow and Kirsch are on the same side, but they don't know it.
Does Wendy have an opportunity to save Boy Kirsch and instead does her little clicky thing and the alien kills him?
Sorry, you said...
Wendy has an opportunity to save Kirsch.
Okay. You said Boy Kirsch.
Did I? Wendy has an opportunity to save Boy Cavalier, but does her little clicky thing and the alien ends up just killing him instead.
I could see that. Prediction, what is Eyeballs... What's he doing?
Boy, there's not enough in this episode to tie it all together. Eyeball gets on a ship and leaves. Eyeball gets in an alien.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Eyeball...
Do they have eyeballs?
So Eyeball gets into the xenomorph.
That's what I mean.
And is the reason that they both die. I think that's what I'm going with.
Does Eyeball have the capability of taking over a synth? It attaches through the ocular nerves. Does that exist?
Yeah, I would say no, but...
Okay. Eyeball takes over Boy Cavalier at some point.
Oh.
That would be my guess. I just... there's so many questions to answer in such a short amount of time.
You know what we could do?
Watch it.
Stay gold.